Down here on the Matagorda shoreline, here off Cedar Bayou, we had a lot of water that inundated our estuaries early in the week, and that began to drop out as the week progressed. But if you got the opportunity to be out on the water earlier in the week, then you took advantage of that. So when we have all that extra water that's pushed in, you get a lot of fishing areas that you can get back into. We spent a lot of time up here on this Matagorda shoreline, this little back lake that dumps off back into here. All this shoreline, just fishing shoreline primarily, just because with the amount of water that was in there, a lot of these fish were pushed right up against the grass line. Our strike zone primarily on the days that we were on the water that we got to fish those higher tides was basically grass line about 30 yards out. And that was the area that those fish were kind of, majority of them were hanging in. You caught a few more just a little outside of that, but just seeing how things progressed, that was the area that we focused on, and that's where we caught the majority of our fish. We just fished all this down to the little Texas Parks and Wildlife building that's down there. Just come up here toward Bray Cove. You got that old broken down pier that's there right there by the Texas Parks and Wildlife place. There's a nice little gut that's on the back side of that, and it's when this water is really up, that back there becomes a pretty good little fishing area. You can like I say, you got a little area there that you can walk in, wade if you want. This whole little flat here, sneaky good. It's got a lot of the right structure on it. There was fish that were holding on it. We caught basically trout and redfish, which are the primary targets, and when we go. But that little back lake that's right there by that broken down pier, it's a pretty deep little gut, even when the tide's not up. But when it's up, then we'll walk right down that shoreline edge and fish toward the mouth of that other little back lake that's right there. Now, if you try to wade across into that, because it shallows up, but it's a real muddy son of a gun that's back in there. So we just primarily focus on the gut part of it. See if we can't catch a little bit of an incoming or outgoing tide there, and see if those fish are staged. And it's a pretty quick indication for you. If you spend about 30, 40 minutes in there and you hadn't caught a fish, move on, because they're not in there then. But most of the time there's fish that are hanging in that little area there. So it's just one of those points of emphasis if you get a chance to fish that, whether it's up, tide's up or down. Then we come up here on the top of Bray. Just kind of walk across a little point right there, and then come back around, just again fishing all these little areas here right up, pushed up close to the shoreline behind the floater that's down there. Then of course when you get up into here, you got the back lakes that start kind of dumping out into that. So those are another good area here. And then this little back lake here. So we can't get all the way back into Little Brunt anymore. So we fish the gut, or the little lake that's on this side of the new road that they rebuilt, and then pop back on this side on this big back lake here and fished all of that. So a lot of area, threw some topwater bait and had some decent success with that. A lot of opportunities were from that. Didn't get a lot of hookups, but we got a lot of blowups and a lot of healthy activity with the topwater bait. So, and that will probably be the case moving forward here. I would, as we get closer to June, summertime's approaching quickly. That topwater bite should stay pretty active and pretty aggressive for the most part. Just got to stick with it. Some days it's a little bit more difficult than others. Some days it's pretty easy. The plastics that we were throwing, in the down south version, the Twisted Tea did well. Purple Rain did well. Big Papa was another flavor that did pretty well for us. Of course, the standbys on us is the Watermelon Red was another one, but the Bone Diamond and White Ice, always good choices, especially in these back lakes like that, and the color of the water. And our water was pretty clean for the most part. Didn't get blown off the water like the previous week was, but we had enough. It was good. A little cooler air from just a little light front that pushed in. Of course, we had a decent amount of rain on the one particular day, and that really helped. It helps our estuaries down the road. So anyhow, knocking tails were good. The greenback and the rogue flavor did good for us. Heavy metal as well. Mirror lure, the Truth was the main one that we threw with that. A little bit of red and gold glitter in that. Still throwing 16th ounce jig head because we were primarily fishing thigh deep water, and that's our target depth most of the time is waist or less. So just spent the time in these areas here. Like I say, good production on redfish, trout in these areas, fishing our majors and minors. Looks to be another upcoming week should be pretty good for us. Here off of Longreef Bend down to Jaybird Point and to Sherman's. Again, with the water levels being what they were, this is one of my areas that I've talked about Sherman's a lot, Jaybird a lot, but when that water really gets up like it was, I like to get into Sherman's. All this area here, of course, we had a little bit of a northwest wind, northeast wind, a couple of days last week, so we started on the north end of it, and we just worked the whole shoreline. The same scenario. Fish were pushed up a little bit closer to the grass, but in this particular lake on the day that we fished this, it was more fish were being caught out away from the shoreline. Of course, our pattern was see if there was fish that were hanging up here on the edges. If you've been into Sherman's, it's got great grass. It's in there, tremendous potholes, and all those types of areas that are in there. So it's really good. So when these fish, when that water levels get up, these fish push you a little bit further back. So it makes a little sense. They were pushed a little bit more toward the center. So once we kind of figured out that pattern, that's what we focused on. We just worked that area really well. Weighted the whole thing. Spent a lot of time in there. Especially on one particular day, it was blowing pretty good for us later in the week. And then, of course, we get back in here, you can get some protection on the back lake that's back in here. And, again, all that water being pushed up, it allows those fish to get further back into these areas. Some days are a little bit better than others, but on the particular day that we fished this area back here, there was a lot of fish that were to be caught. A lot of redfish, some undersized. There was in those 16 to 18 range. And then, of course, we caught some solid reds that were they're in that 22 to 25 range, and then, of course, some nice trout being caught in there as well that were in that 15 to 19 range, and a few overs as well. So again, our fishery is very healthy, and it's not going to do anything but get better. It's a great thing to see. I enjoy releasing these fish that are 21 or better, 20 or better. So it bodes well for our system. Again, just working the shorelines, working these edges, work out away from it, just paying attention with the bait. And there's just a tremendous amount of bait that's pushed into these areas right now as well. Did not spend a lot of time on the outside. It was primarily on the inside here. And then, of course, if you come out and you come back down like you're going to head down to Spalding, then you've got lots of opportunity back in there. There's these back lakes that you can get into. All these here, the middle one, this outside one here. If you're not sure how to get into some of these back lakes, there is shell pads that are on certain sides of the little channels that go in there. So if you're not sure about them, I just stay at them, fish the mouth, fish the outer edge of it. So like I say, we spent a lot of time in these particular areas with those tides like they were. So it was really nice to have that extra water in here for a few days. Toward the end of the week, it started to drop back out, so that changed our patterns back up a little bit. But again, same baits, are down south and are pretty much the same colors: white ice, bone diamond, twisted tea, big papa, watermelon red was another one that's all been pretty good. Purple rain, again, I threw that in. That's been doing pretty well. Again, some of these back lakes spend a lot of time with some topwater on, so we've got a lot of opportunities in the Sherman's back lake and in the Spalding back lake. So it was a lot of fun to see the action with the topwater. So if you're a topwater junkie, have you one tied on, because there's going to be some opportunities for you if you can stick with it. Again, majors and minors are what we focused on. In and around those time frames in between, we had to scratch a little bit, try to locate some fish. But once we got closer to those bite frames, that's when our opportunities really came. So if you're not focusing, or if you're not using or utilizing the majors and minors, you're doing yourself a disservice. You can really amp up your catching opportunities if you incorporate that into your day. As long as you got bait that's working in there, and if you're in the fish, you're going to catch them. You're going to get them. So if you don't know more about that kind of stuff, look for it. Look it up. There's plenty of apps that are out there that'll help you with that. And you can email Texas Fishing Tips, and I'll respond to that as well if you so choose. But anyhow, the knock and tail, greenback, heavy metal were very good for us in these. That water was a little bit cleaner, so those baits really stood out for us. And of course, we threw a lot of the mirror lure truth in both the Little John and the XL, and that was pretty much the baits that we threw all week. Sprinkled in a few of the Pav lures here and there, but it was most of the stuff was in the green tones again. So that was those were all good opportunities that we had in this past week up in these areas. Turtle pen area, again, can't say it enough. When you got the higher waters, there's certain areas that really light up. Turtle pen is one of them. I like to fish turtle pen a lot. Talked about it quite a bit. Like I say, you got a couple of back lake mouths that are on this side over here. I like to fish those. Really, I've mentioned it before, they're really soft up in there, so you have to be careful if you do wade up in it. You can, when you get the water levels up, you can get your boat back in there. But I like to stay on the outside of it and fish that, just see if there's fish holding. And I love fishing this whole back shoreline. It's, man, you've got, 1,000 yards, maybe more, that you've just got a great shoreline edges. It's got points on it. You've got all different kinds of structure that's there. And these fish they just kind of hang out, and they just kind of cruise up and down that edge like that. So it's really a great location. And of course, you got the creek that cuts through here at the mouth and takes you all the way to the back lake, to Copano Creek, all the way back into here to this area back here that you can get. And you've got little lakes that are in here, but these areas back here, if you don't have a skinny running boat of some sort and not real familiar with it, you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble back here. But when you do have the higher water and the tides that are in here, these areas back here really light up. Those fish like to push back on there. You can find some really nice schools of red sometimes. And then just fish the edges. Like I say, you can fish across there. You can even drift across it when as much water as we had this past week in there. You can drift some of this if you didn't want to wade it. But I like to spend the time out here on the front half of it, fish the gut, fish the big point that's out on this side here into turtle pen, and just spend time. So you can spend several hours back in that area if you really get out, take your time wading it, working it, seeing what the pattern is, how it developed for us. Again, topwater bait was good for us this past week. Very aggressive bite on particular days. Then of course that it tapers off, comes and goes, but I like to stick with that, especially when the topwater bite is happening. I'll stick it out and fish it. If you're the same way, like I say, if you're a topwater junkie, then we're into the time frame right now where it can be really, really good if you hit it just right on a particular day. If you get the opportunity in this upcoming week, it looks pretty favorable as far as our weather patterns go. So you should have some opportunities out there. And again, same baits, plastics for down south, same flavors that I had mentioned in the other two videos, and then of course sprinkled in a little bit of soft dine here or there. Double D has been another one that's been pretty good, especially that Double D is really good into that like I say, mid-thigh to waist deep water. It's a very good bait since it's an ascending bait. You can really control that above the grass line. And you can stay out of grass too, because I've started to notice we have a lot of floating grass on particular days. So it's just another one that you can kind of put into your box or add to your box, however you want to look at it. And then again, you've got tons of area that you can fish all the way down to the Turtle Pen Point on this side, even on the other side to Shell Point. That whole little area down in there, you've got lots of different areas that you can fish, a lot of different kinds of structure that's in there. Like I say, we found 16-inch reds all the way up to 25-inch redfish that were back in these areas. Some solid trout, plenty of 16 to 18s that were in there, a few overs as well. So all good things, good signs that we're seeing that our estuaries are very healthy, headed into our summertime period, which it will not be long, just probably 2.5 weeks, man. We're going to be in June. So water temps are nice. They're in the low 80s on a consistent basis, so it bodes well for your wading opportunities.